5 per acre, which is about 2.
Well, get up.
I hear you.
So again, I'm John Rose. I'm with Olympic Property Group, and we're part of Pope Resources, the folks that own the town, and also own up around 8,000 acres of land in North Kitsap County. And so what we're doing here tonight is, y'all know that the mill shut down in 1995, and we have been working for about 17 years now to get the town back on its feet. And these days, that's just about how long it takes with the way processes work. So the meeting that we're doing here tonight is to not surprise people by putting an application in and telling them they've got 20 days to make a comment or to get information. This is the second meeting that we're having officially to talk about this town, where it's going, and to provide a venue for folks to either share their ideas, their concerns, their issues, their irritation, whatever it is, that's, we're here to listen. But I also want to make clear that this is not an official county process. Okay, so we will share all of the comments that you make tonight with the county, but this is different than the county process. This is about the folks that own this making some kind of an attempt to talk to their neighbors. Okay, that's what this is all about. So it's a chance to do that. You don't have to participate, but we welcome it whether it's hard to listen to or not. We're used to taking meetings quite regularly. And so don't worry about that. It's the time to be heard. How can you be heard? How can you make a comment? You can pop me when no one's looking. There are places to put suggestion cards. There is pen and butcher paper to just write ideas on. We did that back in 2006, and it was covered with folks' ideas. There is a website that you can go to. There, you should sign up on our sign-up list. So whatever your communication style is, even gestures of hand gestures work for us. Just a quick bit of background. Who's moved here within 10 years? Say 10 years. Okay, you're newcomers. I just talked to somebody who bought one of the lots from Pope and Talbot in 1952. So a long story, really short. Oh, and by the way, we're going to do this exact same presentation at 7:30. We are videotaping this for a couple reasons. One is, no doubt there's more people that are interested than were able to come tonight. So that's going to be available on the website. This video will be available. And it's just helpful for hearing what did he say about that thing, and it's kind of helpful for us to make sure people hear it right. So we will be taking this video, and it'll be out on YouTube for folks to be able to see and share with folks who aren't here. Okay, Pope and Talbot came here in 1853 from San Francisco. You know, they were originally from Maine. They went to San Francisco to be part of the gold rush. They got into shipping and tendering. They came up here in 1853 to find a source of lumber to service San Francisco, which was growing very quickly, and had a mill up and running within a year. They operated under the name the Puget Mill Company for years and years and years and years, and sold the town in 1933 to somebody called the McCormick Company, who had really bad timing because the Depression wiped them out. We got the property back around the same time. It operated as Pope and Talbot, and was owned by Pope and Talbot until 1985. Then in 1985, the company broke apart. And Pope and Talbot, who was headquartered in Portland, took all the sawmills and all the pulp mills and all the manufacturing, and Pope Resources was a separate company that got born with separate stock, separate shareholders, and separate directors. We took the ownership of the land. So Pope Resources has owned this land since 1985. The mill closed in 1995. Pope and Talbot had a lease with us to keep for 20 years to keep operating the mill. But because of the decline in the timber industry, they shut that mill down in 1995, 10 years ahead of the ending of the lease. Sadly, Pope and Talbot went bankrupt in 2008. And a lot of folks saw the newspaper article and thought, thank God John Rhodes is out of a job. We don't have to listen to that anymore. But they are totally separate companies. And so we keep going on, but they do not exist anymore. When we shut the mill down in 1995, Pope and Talbot had an obligation to pay for and maintain the town of Port Gamble. That was their obligation. They wanted to get out of that obligation because Port Gamble loses a tremendous amount of money every year. And we were happy sort of to take it over, but the big issue was, what do we do about the environmental cleanup that no doubt has to be done? How's that going to work? Who's paying for what? The companies fought about that until 2002, when we finally split up environmental cleanup responsibilities. And so we entered the college's cleanup program in 2002. Looked like it was a fair settlement to all. But then Pope and Talbot went bankrupt, and so that was very bad news for us, because they're no longer here to share in the liability. So that was a bummer for us, besides losing, your roots. I'm going to talk more about the environmental cleanup a little bit later. We're going to talk about a handful of things there's a lot going on here. There's a lot going on, and a lot of it's complicated. And if you're really invested in this stuff, this is a year to watch and pay attention. I'm talking about the environmental cleanup. We're going to talk about the Kitsap Forest and Bay project, which is this conservation effort to put 7,000 acres into public ownership and to preserve public access. We're going to talk about this master plan, our potential master plan. We're going to talk about why are we doing that right now, because we're really slow. And then we're going to take your questions and your comments. We did this same kind of meeting in 2006. Was anybody at that meeting in 2006? Okay. If you made a written comment, it should be over in that book. So there was a whole list of stuff that people said this was their ideas. If you pick up this, it's kind of cool because the things in yellow are things that have been done or started since 2006 that were all your ideas. I'm not saying they were just your ideas. We might have had an idea or two on our own. But there's been input. Those ideas have been preserved, and a good number of them, like the theaters, bring the theater back. Somebody said get a quilt shop. Now there's a quilt shop. And a lot of those things have been done. So it wasn't time wasted back in 2006, and it's not time wasted to be here tonight. So first, let's talk about the Kitsap Forest and Bay project. In 2007, the company made the decision it was going to make a plan to leave North Kitsap. And we have a lot of choices on how to leave. So the company was more a timber company than a real estate company. It's really what the company's heart and soul is on timber, not this real estate stuff. In fact, after Port Gamble and a couple other projects, there probably will not be a timber real estate department at Pope Resources. So take your licks now. But the company said, we want to develop an exit plan for all these 8,000 acres of land we own in North Kitsap. And they asked the real estate folks to come up with a game plan. And so one of the things we noticed was that there was an unusual amount of public use of our property. I mean, really unusual. Most of our tree farms don't have anybody on them at all during the course of the year. But this tree farm is in the middle of 70,000 people. And that means it's been functioning more as an unofficial park for decades. So in 2007, the company made an announcement and it made an offer. The offer was, do you want to work together to try and retain public access on the 7,000 acres, or should we just go about our business and do something else? So anybody here at that meeting in 2007 in Kingston? Okay, we're still at it. You're not from Indianola, are you? Okay, Kingston.
Originally, here.
Okay, well, you're lucky. It's a great place. So if anybody wants to see that meeting, 530 people packed the Kingston Junior High. We had no idea that many people were going to show up. The video for that meeting is on YouTube. Okay, so if you go to it'syourbackyard.com and you click on the videos that are there, you'll see the video from 2007 when we announced this whole big trail thing, the String of Pearls and all that stuff. We've been working on that now for 5 years. So when we had 530 people show up, it gave us the feeling that people in North Kitsap County were going to be willing to work hard to try and save the land. If nobody showed up, we wouldn't be doing this. Okay, so we wouldn't have bothered. So 530 people around here is a giant meeting. And so we were willing to take it on and recommend to our board that we spend time and effort to see if we could come up with a conservation plan that would be as good for us or better for us in a business sense than just selling it off in 20-acre lots or selling it in bulk to another timber investor. So one of the things I'm very careful to say is that we're not doing this whole trail thing to be nice guys. We're doing it because some of us have convinced our board that we will do as well or better than if we just sold it off. Okay, so a lot of folks accuse us of saying, hey, you're trying to sell the world, but you're really a for-profit company. Shocker, we are a for-profit company, but we also have ways and choices on how we choose to make money, and nobody's making us do this. We're doing this because I think it would be a great outcome. I think it would build the company's reputation, and I think we can do it without the company suffering some sort of loss in the process. That idea was first called the String of Pearls. Then it was called the North Kitsap Legacy Partnership when Commissioner Steve Bauer was involved. Remember that? And that had a whole different idea to it. The idea of that one was we didn't think the public would have enough money to buy the land. So we said, why don't we use real estate density and take all the density off of Hansville and Kingston and all these places and stack it in back of Port Gamble. And then the company, without having any cash, the county and the citizens, without having to raise tens of millions of dollars, would have permanent access forever. But that got rejected. Okay, so that got totally rejected out of hand by the tribes and by the Environmental Coalition. So we've dropped it. Instead, folks said, why do we have to mess around with this real estate stuff? Let's just go out and get the money. And so we said we were skeptical that there was a way to do that, but that we were willing participants. And so in September 28th of last year, we signed a contract with the Cascade Land Conservancy, a land conservation group that does this kind of work. And we said, you got 18 months to prove to us whether or not there's really money out there to do it. But we can't keep hanging around here wishing for a miracle. Okay? So we signed that contract. If you were paying attention to the newspaper, that got a big bunch of press coverage, but there's still a ton of work to be done. There's also still a ton of community effort going into that. Huge amounts of effort. If you care about that, I highly recommend that you get involved with it. It's only going to happen if people care. The only reason we even took it on is because 500 people showed up. If you don't care, don't show up, and we'll move on. That effort is now called, the third name, is the Kitsap Forest and Bay Project. And the point of that project is to go out and try and raise money. The Kitsap Forest and Bay Coalition is a group of nonprofits and environmental organizations and tribes and us and the county and a whole host of other people. The North Kitsap Trails Association. A whole host of people are working every single day to try and raise money and awareness on the project. So from the Kitsap Forest and Bay Coalition tonight is Judy Willott. If you would raise your hand, Judy. If you're interested in this, ask Judy. If you're interested in being involved in it, ask her. She's set up over here. We still have this whole idea of the String of Pearls trail plan. The North Kitsap Trails Association formed up, and they got a comprehensive trail plan passed and adopted by Kitsap County. There has been somewhere on the order of 15 to 20,000 volunteer hours over the last 5 years. So nobody can say that the community hasn't tried and that Pope hasn't tried. But it's, you know, we need more people being involved and saying that this is something they think is worthwhile. Yeah, I'll do a pile of questions afterwards, if that's all right. So that's the Kitsap Forest and Bay project. The environmental cleanup. In 2002, we were approached by the Department of Ecology, and they said, hey, Pope Resources and Pope and Talbot, why don't you enter into the voluntary cleanup program with the Department of Ecology? And then, after you get the thing all cleaned up, you'll be ready to move on and develop your shiny town. And so for 10 years, we've been working with the Department of Ecology, the Department of Natural Resources, lots of involvement from the Port Gamble Swellam tribe, and for a while, Pope and Talbot. Since 2002, we began that cleanup. A lot has been done. There's an exhibit around here in the back. 5 landfills have been cleaned up. A ton of underground storage tanks. Vanna is pointing, is holding it up. So that shows all the areas that we've done environmental cleanup. There was lots of underground storage tanks that had to come out. There was thousands of yards of dirt that came off the mill site. And there's been 2 dredging projects out in the bay. And now we're coming down to the end. And that's why we're moving forward with the master plan. Because we've been working for 17 years to get the town repositioned, to get it fixed up, cleaned up. You know, when you sell your house, clean it up and you fix it up. And we're getting it ready to kick this kid out of the nest so it can grow up and live on its own. Still today, after 10 years of fixing up Port Gamble, our company writes a check between $200,000 and $250,000 to keep it looking like this. And we can't keep doing that either. It's time to move it on. So, that exhibit's there in the back. The environmental cleanup, we are now trying to develop what I hope to heck is the final cleanup action plan. And that's going to be looking at Gamble Bay. All the stuff uplands above the water is complete. But now we have to finish the work in the bay.